I'm Joey.T.Cartoon.P, and you're watching the Cartoon Palooza. I'm actually gonna do 2 reviews at once. However, rather than do one review after another, I'm actually gonna do both these movies at the same time and use them as comparisons to one another. And I know what you're thinking. That sounds like a terrible thing to do. A movie should do things well on its own right, and you shouldn't have to make these comparisons. To that I say no. Because in this case, both these movies do something similar, or take something similar, and you just can't help but make comparisons to one another. One that shows when one movie does it right, and one when one movie does it wrong. In this case, we're talking about 2 movies that deal with video games. No. Not video game movies. I'm talking about movies that are based on arcade video game culture. On one corner of the ring, you got Wreck-It Ralph, a sweet little cartoon movie with great characters and world building, and on the other corner there's Pixels, a poor attempt at making anything relatable or awe-inspiring in general. Both movies feel like opposite sides of a spectrum. I feel like if I talk about one, I think about the other. Whereas one movie does something right, the other one messes it up. Therefore, reviewing both movies at the same time seems like the appropriate choice. While both movies have similar tones, the plots are different. In Wreck-It Ralph, a Donkey Kong-style bad guy is sick of being treated like the villain, so he leaves his game for a new one. However, his game is left without a bad guy, leaving him in trouble. Therefore, he must make his way back to the game and understand his inner strength, despite having this label.
One game at a time, Ralph.
In Pixels, an arcade champion turned loser is asked to help to save the world from aliens using old school games to take over the planet. And get this, his friend happens to be the President of the United States, just because they were good drinking buddies and had themselves a hand at competing in contests makes him qualified to saving the world. Priorities, eh? While both of these plots are simple and straightforward, allowing themselves to be described in one sentence, the story that follows the plot is where they split off. Wreck-It Ralph takes place in an arcade that's every little kid's dream come true of what happens when we don't play the games. We just assume the little people in the consoles hang out until the play button is pressed again. In fact, when I was 6 years old, I imagined that if I beat a hole into my Game Boy Color, I could actually catch a Pikachu. I never caught a Pikachu. I just lost my Game Boy Color. And my parents' respect. Because Pixels is supposed to take place in the real world at the time, the logic behind the invasion doesn't make sense at all. So there's this videotape of gamers competing against each other and is sent into space, captured by aliens and viewed as a declaration of war. Mind you, the tape shot into space is not the clean footage you can capture with screen capture technology today. But this is clunky 80s technology of a man filming the game, played in front of a camera, recording on a VHS. I'm surprised the aliens were able to make out what the characters looked like in order to create them accurately. These aliens assumed by sending different games, one after another, that we would fight them on foot with the same logic of moving a joystick. If they win more games out of the 3, and then 5, they would leave us alone. However, by the end, because one guy cheats, they send all the games to DC to take him out because... You can see where this is starting to become confusing. It's like they're making up the rules as they go rather than setting them up in stone and sticking with them. It was easier for Wreck-It Ralph to establish the rules since it's a cartoon world with cartoon logic. In a real world setting, it makes it hard to understand how the aliens perceive cheating, actual winning, or even a sense of what their mission is to begin with. So for sure, the story's different in quality, but where does that leave our characters? In Wreck-It Ralph, the cast is amazing. John C. Reilly plays our hero, and he brings so much to the character. Reilly is an underrated actor since most of his popular roles are for the dumb comedies. However, we tend to forget that he's a credible actor, and his performance shows here. He brings a certain level of humanity to this character. We feel bad for Ralph because he's no better than anybody who's done the same crap for years and has never received any awards for it. Added on the fact that everything he touches breaks, therefore making you this reluctant glutton for punishment. His co-star and partner in crime is a pixelated chick named Vanellope, voiced by Sarah Silverman. She's another character who can't catch a break, who forms an unlikely bond with Ralph, despite their relationship seeming too similar to your typical Pixar movie. Yeah, I forgot to mention that this year this movie came out, Wreck-It Ralph was more like the Pixar movie, all while Pixar's Brave was more like the Disney movie with princesses and false messages. Yeah, take a shot every time the character says something about finding their fate. But either way, it's Ralph who recognizes that Vanellope is in a worse situation than he is. She's considered to be a glitch that isn't even supposed to be part of the game. However, by helping her out, there's a great reveal that I still wouldn't want to spoil since it's such a great reveal. But both characters are different odds with similar goals, making them a great team to watch. I didn't even get to mention you have other characters like Jane Lynch, Jack Babaya, and even Alec Tudyk doing a great Mad Hatter impression. All playing great characters with great lines like this.
Jeepers, is she always this intense?
It's not her fault. She's programmed with the most tragic backstory ever.
This line gets me cracking up all the time. What's a shame is that Pixels also has a great cast, but they're not given anything to work with. Let's go ahead and start with
your worst nightmare!
Jesus, Olaf! Pull yourself together, dude! Josh Gad plays Adam Sandler's friend and fellow arcade nut who is freaking insane and annoying to handle. He's a conspiracy nut who spends most of his time fantasizing about a made-up game character. He's loud, mostly saying dialogue that seems like it was written for Rob Schneider, and he has a moment in the film that everybody who even likes the movie, the small minority they are still baffled by.
But no one else is weirded out by this? That was just Cubert.
What's ironic is how, as a comic relief, he could have been handled better if he had better material. He goes from a quiet side character in Frozen to a geeky Sam Kinison, who also has a small Frozen Easter egg in his room. A Frozen Walt Disney or Walt Disney's Frozen? I pretty much have the same complaint for Peter Dinklage, who actually made me wish I was watching him as the underdog villain. You also have Brian Cox, Sean Bean, Hot Betty Rubble, and Aunt Petunia from Harry Potter. Thank you, Chris Columbus. But of all the casting mishaps in this film, none of them is more apparent than our hero. Remember there was a time when seeing Adam Sandler lead a role in a comedy, it was exciting. Now I dread it with fear, and this movie is an example why. So our hero Sam spends most of his adult life as this creepy tech support guy. He sneaks into a closet to have a drink with one of his customers that he finds out's going through a divorce, goes for a kiss, and then claims she's a snob for letting him on. Need me to remind you that these are the two romantic love interests in the movie. If I didn't, you would think it were Kevin James and Adam Sandler. We're supposed to feel bad for him that he was this great arcade gamer but never appreciated, despite having a scholarship to a college that was only brought up for like 2 lines. I also noticed in Sandler's delivery that seemed like one thing, but made me realize it was something else when I saw more of his recent movies like Blended. I used to think Sandler's loss of energy and excitement was because of his characters being unmotivated, but now I have the reason to believe he's just bored. Almost like he knows this movie's gonna make money either way, so giving a crap wouldn't matter to begin with since it's still gonna make money.
Nah, I don't think that guy's got some quality H2O. He doesn't have a lot to work with.
While Wreck-It Ralph is easily the better movie, Pixels does have one slight edge over that movie. Pretty hard to believe, but the visual effects did help the world building better in the Happy Madison movie than in the Walt Disney animated film. This isn't saying that the video game world for characters in Wreck-It Ralph doesn't work. In fact, it's damn perfect. It manages to combine all the elements of video game logic like resetting, high scores, and coding, giving way for great lines and visual humor. It even allows great dialogue between characters from different areas of gaming work brilliantly. There's one great gag where a character is running up against a wall, copying the effect of a gamer getting stuck in a video game.
I laugh at this scene because I've been in this situation way too often.
It's even included as an important plot element for the film, which is if a character leaves their game and playing another, it can cause the game to glitch and fall apart. They call it going turbo, but according to Arnold,
it's turbo time.
The visual effects in the world are great, when they replicate different themes and tones of each console. From the uber pixelated world of Ralph's game to the PlayStation N64 theme of the go-kart game Sugar Rush, and even the more recent Hero's Duty, which replicates the tone of today's games like Call of Duty, Halo, and Gears of War. What's ironic is that the video game world in this movie is so good, it makes the human world seem lacking. I don't think a lot of people would have known about these humans playing the video games more than the actual video games themselves. I didn't even care that the owner of the arcade was both an homage to the Twin Galaxies founder, Walter Day, and voiced by Al freaking Bundy. Two unforgettable things wrapped into one, and they didn't do much with it. What Wreck-It Ralph could have done better is the thing Pixels does right. Making the outside world live action. I know I just criticized the live action world having real world logic in comparison to the video games. In Pixels, the video game characters are not explained too well. All we know is that they were created by aliens to take over the planet through a gaming contest that's rules fall apart faster than Q*bert falling off a trampoline. But because the characters weren't created to look like actual things in real life, say like a giant centipede, they were made to look more like their arcade version, stylized enough to make them look like it for this movie. It makes the video game characters in Pixels seem otherworldly, therefore when they engage in the video game action, it's never too fast or overwhelming. The Pac-Man chase is perfect, as well as the centipede invasion. Heck, I could just watch those scenes over again as opposed to the whole movie. What could have been interesting is if Wreck-It Ralph had its humans filmed in live action while the video game world was computer animated, it would have complemented the video game world and its sense of illusion better than what they have done here. It's part of the charm that worked in movies like Mary Poppins, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and just recently the Lego Movie. Imagine if those movies were to have gone live action or animation all the way, it would not have had the same effect. Therefore, the effect in Pixels actually gives the movie a slight advantage, and it's only fair to acknowledge when something works. Altogether, Pixels is still a mess. So these two movies may seem different at first. One is a fully animated family film where the other is a partially animated action film who I'm still not sure who it was intended for.
I made your game my bitch.
However, both movies share a fascination with the arcade games of yesteryear. While I wouldn't put Wreck-It Ralph as one of the best Disney films, it does a great job creating good characters and building a great world with funny gags. On the same side, I don't even think Pixels is the worst Happy Madison film. In fact, there were some decent effects in the movie, and I'd say one line that made me laugh.
Oh, Skipper's not dead! Help me! Help me! Nah, I'm pretty sure he's dead, Maddie.
However, most of the characters are despicable, hard to watch, and for the most part, I was actually watching the movie while playing Galaga on the side. Pretty much saying a lot. Yeah, you see Galaga in the movie, but I'd much rather be playing it. So if I had to rate the two movies that had similar things going in, Wreck-It Ralph gets a worth it rating, and obviously Pixels gets the forget about it rating. So for today's question, what is your favorite arcade game? My favorite arcade game of all time, hands down, gotta be Galaga. That game is a total time killer. Love it. Comment and let me know. I'm Joey.T.Cartoon.P and thanks for watching this review, or should I say, reviews, on the Cartoon Palooza.
Dragon!